After reading the script, I was definitely challenged to also think about how I live. What I love is that this story does not promote fear. If anything, Homestead promotes the overcoming of fear, and it empowers and encourages you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cheryl Crisp for Movieguide, and this is Coffee and Conversation with Homestead. Homestead is an incredible present-day, post-apocalyptic family survival drama. The world is searching for calm amidst the chaos. Jesse, you star as Evan Lee, an ex-Green Beret. Tell us about him.
Yeah, Evan Lee is, as you said, an ex-Green Beret. He served with Jeff Erickson. Jeff is his leading commander, sort of, or has been in the past. And so Evan is a guy that definitely keeps his feet on the ground and his head out of the clouds, if that makes any sense. I think he wants desperately to find the best in people and bring that out of them, even if they're making the worst decisions. So he's also the guy that'll have your back, even if he doesn't agree with you. And so you will see that play out in the film and ultimately in the television series.
Jesse, your character Evan is ready for action at any moment, but he's also calm, cool, and collected and has solid character. Is his personality in the film anything like your personality?
I actually do better in high stress situations. So when I was a whitewater raft guide, for example, or now even being a father or being on film sets where, tension and pressure can kind of escalate quickly at times, I actually operate better in those circumstances. So I start to think clearly, I can see clearly. If it's calm and cool and collected around me, then all of a sudden I'm like, what do I do? Where do I, my wife's always like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure, you know, but if it gets kind of stressful, then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, now I dial in and I'm sort of focused. So yeah, there's some similarities between Evan and I. And of course you do pull from your own heart and what you know. And at the same time, I want to really honor the men and women who serve in our military. And it's important to me that I come across on screen in a way that, God willing, if they watch, when they watch this, they go, yeah, yeah. And I've actually had a few compliments along the way that I only bring it up because it's an honor to have someone who is still serving or has served come up to you and go, hey, that was done well. And those are the comments that I really take to heart quickly, because it's like, those are the people that I'm trying to take a 25-year career and jam it into my life, which I have not done that for 25 years.
When I watched Homestead, I really thought, would I be prepared? And would I be able to protect my family and survive? When you first read the script, did it make you ask questions, seeking answers?
I love the script. When I read it, I was immediately on board. I had no idea what they wanted me to maybe be or audition for yet at that point, but I kind of knew quite quickly. It was like, ooh, I like Jeff, I like Evan. Those were kind of my go-tos immediately. So after reading the script, first my heart was hit. Like I really felt the heart of every different character in the script, and I was like, wow, this is really special. There's something here. This isn't just like, oh, it's a hard time and it's post-apocalyptic. It was like, man, there's people from different walks of life, different ages, different family dynamics, different political positions, and they're all living this out right now. And I'm kind of just back here as an audience member, and I get to watch this. And that really intrigued me and sucked me in immediately. And I still feel that, like, now after seeing the film. We've filmed 2 episodes of the television series so far, which really cranks it up even more. And oh, it's a wild ride. Like I feel, I watch this and I'm like, am I really a part of this? Like, this is wow. Like, I'm crying, I'm happy, I'm laughing, I'm sad. I'm like, I'm figuring things out. Yes, I was definitely challenged to also think about how I live. That's just going to be a part of it. What I love is that this story does not promote fear. If anything, Homestead promotes the overcoming of fear, and it empowers and encourages you. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It really does. You really trained for this role, and I heard you have a nickname from when you were younger. You were called Hardcore Hutch, and you had many near-death experiences when you were growing up, and you survived. So, did those life experiences help you prepare for this survival role?
I mean, some are less intense than others. I mean, I had my stomach cut open with barbed wire when I was doing chores on the farm growing up. I've um, I've fallen off of rock quarries while I was free climbing, and busted myself up. I've been mountain biking and fell off of train bridges into the water. Um, I was whitewater rafting and ultimately drowned. That's a longer story, but I was underwater anywhere from 11 to 22 minutes and went through the whole process. And ultimately, it's an absolute miracle that I'm alive, that I can function and breathe and talk and walk and think, because without oxygen that long, I should be completely done. And so that's definitely been a trajectory that shifted my life. Um, so yeah, that's a few of the things that ultimately have been like some of the scariest times, but also some of the most beautiful times. My parents divorced when I was 11. I mean, that's something that you live through and you deal with for a long time. Ultimately, I ended up finding my father again after 24 years of not seeing him, not being in contact. And so, these are all things that I think a lot of us maybe have to deal with in life, family dynamics and things that are out of your control, but they highly affect you. Sometimes as people, we don't reflect on that. And I've learned now as a performer that, man, it's actually my job. And even as a human being, it's important that I really actually look at it. Don't ignore it. Don't shove it down. Bring it to the light, feel it, deal with it, find a practical way to work through it. And when you do that, you not only do you find healing, you find forgiveness, whether it's in yourself or others, but you also find that now you can access your heart. It's not hard. You know what I mean? Like if you leave something undealt with, or it still is in a, now I'm not saying, hey, don't have grace for moments you're really living in, and they're really tough and it's hard. You have to live through that. And there's a time and a healing process there. But at some point, right, if something happened to you and like someone stole your pencil crayon in second grade and you're like 48 years old and you're still like, ah, 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 then that's a red flag. You gotta you gotta
Yeah.
dig into that, look into that and
Yeah.
find some healing in there. And when that's unlocked, oh my goodness, you're gonna change as a human being. So
Yeah.
I want to bring that to the screen. I want to allow myself to feel all these things so that when I'm playing a character, it's there. It's readily available. I can pull on it and I can use it, because hopefully you connect with that. Hopefully you watch Evan and you watch all these other characters in Homestead and you go, and I totally connect with that person. That's awesome. I totally feel alone, or I totally feel like, man, I just want to date somebody and I can't find them, or you know what? I'm not prepared. How do I do that? And
Yeah.
then we'll take you on this journey, which ultimately leads to hope and figuring out how to live with others, and how to handle your life and maybe accept other people.
God wasn't through with you yet, Jesse.
No, he's just like, all right, here we go. You're gonna do this now. Like, what?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean, good thing he doesn't tell you ahead of time. Because if he's like, hey, oh, by the way, you're gonna drown soon, I would have been like, what?
you're like, not today, not today.
No.
You have a very busy December. You have two films out on Great American Family, and then Homestead hits theaters December 20th. You have had over 100 TV and film roles. What would you say is your greatest role ever?
Well, there's a saying kind of that goes along the lines of like, my best role is yet to come. But I will say that Homestead, I think, is something that's really impacted me. And I also believe that it's an opportunity to make a big shift in my career. I mean, I've been doing this for 24 and a half years, and I feel like I'm just getting started. So I feel kind of new in a way. And yet I'm very thankful that I have this experience to bring to the table, because when you're hired and you're going to be the lead in something, or you're going to be part of the cast, I want to show up with a full toolbox. I want to bring as much prep to the table as possible, whether that's spiritual, mental, physical, emotional. Bring it all so that they feel good about it. But yeah, it's a wild ride right now. I had the opportunity to be one of the producers on a Little Women's Christmas, which we ultimately sold to Great American Family. My daughter is one of the leads in it. She did a fantastic job. It's her screen debut. I'm so proud of her.
That's
She's
awesome.
crushing it. And then I was in a film with Jill Wagner called Christmas Under the Northern Lights that also aired. Great American, excuse me, Family also just bought Let It Snow, which used to be over at Hallmark.
Right.
That was my first film that I was ever the lead in as like a romantic comedy with Candace Cameron Bure. And people just really love that movie. So and then Homestead, like theatrical release, which you do not get every day in your career. So I'm very thankful. I'm doing everything I can. I told the team, look, whoever you need me to talk to, wherever you need me to be, I'm in. Let's do it. Let's share the experience. Let's talk to people. Let's hang out with fans.
Yeah,
I'm in.
that's awesome. Jesse, your faith is your North Star. How does it guide you professionally and personally?
Yeah, it's a North Star. It's a foundation. I'm always learning. So I'm not perfect. I don't have it right, but it has been, a pretty good lifetime so far of allowing God to continue to develop me and build my character and allow me to grow. And God has a way of doing that naturally. He does it through your spouse, he does it through your kids, he does it through your job, he does it through your everything. Literally every moment has a purpose. And so I want to encourage people to not give up, not feel that you're alone, because it can feel like that sometimes. It feels like you're kind of, it's almost like you have horse blinders on and you're like, all you can see is this thing in front of you right now. And it's so hard. And it could be, don't get me wrong. I mean, life can be very hard, but that's not the end. Today is not the end. So just one day at a time. There's a scripture that says, who of you by worrying can add an hour to his day? I tried, can't do it. And um, so just know that it's going to be okay. And, but you got to give it to God. And I say that with imperfection because I don't have it all figured out. I'm constantly still sort of living out faith. But I will say this, anytime I've leaned into God, anytime I've gone to scripture, anytime I've had someone pray for me, it has never ended in, oh, well, that was a waste of my time. It's always ended in like, wow, okay, I'm encouraged, I'm built up, or there's a massive miracle and something shifts.
Everyone wants to know how the world ended. This is the story of how it began again.
Homestead is such a great movie with a wonderful message for everybody, not just Christians. And I feel like in a world where so many things divide us, it helps unite us. Talk about the inspiring messages.
Yeah, I think in so many ways as a culture and as a society, we celebrate our differences instead of our similarities. And gosh, if what happens in the movie happened in real life, we got to figure out a way to come together. And, there was a moment 4 years ago when COVID hit that grocery stores were running out of food and supplies and gas station prices were going up. And I thought for a moment that we were heading into what seemed like the apocalypse. And we as family members all started talking about what's our plan, like where are we going to go? And mom and dad thankfully have 40 acres just outside of Nashville, and they have goats and chickens and ducks and horses and every imaginable animal. And it was like, hey, are we going to all flee to mom and dad's farm and survive and have to kill their beloved pets for meat and food, which is a terrifying and scary thought. But in it, what we realized is like community and family would be the key thing in that scenario. And so there's so many messages. It's interesting because at face value, even watching the trailers and the marketing, it seems like a dark, scary thriller. And yes, there is darkness, and it is a thriller, but light shines brightest in the darkness. And there is so much hope and redemption and beauty in the journey of Homestead that I can't wait for people to see. And the message of people coming together and celebrating our similarities and working together to survive, I think, is something that our culture and society needs more now than ever before.
Get the latest uplifting news and interviews from your favorite media at Movieguide. Like and subscribe and join the millions of families that follow your values. Now back to the show.
Ben, you directed I Still Believe in Priceless, and the cinematography in Homestead is just incredible. I really felt like I was right there living life with the characters, and it's just so well done. Was that your goal, is to make you feel like you were right there?
Well, yeah. In making a film that again is kind of gritty and dark, we wanted to kind of contrast and offset it with beauty. And that the visual aesthetic is part of the hope too, you know. And so in the moments of sheer terror and fear, you know, we cut to beautiful shots of the mountains and God's creation. And that's another part of the message of Homestead. I think as a society and culture, we've built these beautiful cities and massive parking lots and built a culture of ease and beauty, and covered up the beauty with technology. And we are so we've become so removed from God's creation. Homestead, we fill it with lots of visuals of the landscape and God's providence. And that's one of the elements in the stories of Homestead that we get into more in the series is when you strip away technology, your phones and TVs and all of the things, the comfort that we require in our normal daily lives, when that all disappears, what do you rely on? And what do you find? And that is, you know, these characters discover God's creation in ways that they never experienced, and family and community. So yes, showing off visually that landscape and the beauty of God's creation through cinematography was definitely a big piece of what we wanted to do with the series.
Yeah, it was so well done. Ben, you come from a very famous family. Your brothers are for King and Country, and your sister is Rebecca St. James. And we got to see a little bit more about your family in Unsung Hero, the movie earlier this year. And your parents did such a great job. What couple things did they do to instill a love of the Lord in the children?
Well, one, we were lucky or blessed to experience hardship. And you know, that's such a weird saying, right? Like we were blessed to experience hardship, but hardship in many forms can make you see God moving in your lives and in your parents' lives. And my parents didn't hide the hardship from us. In fact, they encouraged us to be in it with them, to experience it with them. And because of that, we experienced miracle after miracle that was unexplainable other than God. And you know, it's crazy because here I am with two boys, 9 and 12, and I want them to experience what I experienced 30 years ago, but without having to walk through the blessing or the tragedy of the difficulties that we went through. And so how do we replicate that? And I've pondered that many, many times, and I've even discussed it as recently as a week ago with my parents. And I think it's getting your kids out of their comfort zone. Make them do things that they don't want to do because we did that time and time again. Whether it's mom and dad forcing us up onto the stage to sing and play music when we were shy and just wanted to blend into the fabric of our family, or mow lawns. And you know, I remember very clearly taking off my hoodie and pushing it into a pillowcase, and that was my pillow at night for a long period of time. Those kind of things got us out of our comfort zone. It made us learn work ethic. It made us, it gave us humility. Um, but it set us up to experience God moving in our lives that I don't think in the comfortable Western civilization we get to do much. And so I don't know, that looks very differently for a lot of different people, but I'm telling you, to me, I look at us being forced to get out of our comfort zone, experiencing life outside of the gates of our subdivision as the moment of change in my parents' life, in my siblings' life, in my life. And that allowed us to experience God. And that might look like a mission trip, going to a third world country. That might be helping neighbors that don't have as much as you have. That might be, instead of driving by and turning your eyes away from the homeless man on the corner, that might be letting your kids see you act out in kindness and graciousness. And so what I witnessed with my parents was them not just telling us about Jesus, but letting us see Jesus in them. And when we do that, I think we can see sincere change in our kids. I hope
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah, I love that. Such great advice. Joel, your brother told me that when you guys were younger, your parents gave you guys a video camera and just gave you free reign with it. And he said that that kind of inspired what he does for King and Country, as far as their concerts are like an experience, a production, and they're just so different than any other normal concerts we see nowadays. Did that childhood experience also inspire you to fast forward direct films, inspiring films like you're doing right now?
Oh my goodness. Yes, that takes me back instantly. As teenagers, Joel and I were he says this from time to time. We were the original for King Country, but on the film side. So we made dozens of short films together in the backyard. Mom and dad bought us a camera. My older brother helped buy me a computer that I could edit the footage that we captured. And for, 5 years, before music really became a thing for Joel, all we did was make film and short films and fake music videos. I say fake because nothing's real until people see it beyond the family. We made Indiana Jones spoofs. We made action thrillers. Like it was our creative playground to try things. And I think a combination of being homeschooled allowed us to experiment, and we had tons of time to play around creatively in music and film. But also, like, we would get bored. And my mom always said to us as kids, we'd come to complain, Mom, I'm bored. What do I do? She said, Well, that's good. I want you to be bored because that allows you to be creative and figure out how to entertain yourselves. And our entertainment was making entertainment, making films, taking photos, writing, performing music. And so our playground, our play was what we now do professionally in every shape and form. And yes, that filming with Joel in the backyard was defining in so many ways in what we both do today.
Yeah, it's amazing. God was kind of preparing you for present day. It's really, really cool.
No doubt. And it's amazing how you can stand on this side and look back and just see his guiding hand in all of what we did. There was this wasn't an accident. This wasn't just a happy, lucky accident. This was God literally reaching down and pushing us into uncomfortable places that ultimately led us both to what we do now.
Yeah, it's amazing. Ben, I heard you and your wife are sort of mini homesteaders on your near your home in Nashville
Yeah,
or Tennessee. Tell us about
I
that.
chuckle a little bit at that because I've gotten that question a few times. So we live on 7 acres in Spring Hill, just south of Nashville, and we have goats and chickens, but that's about where the homesteading ends. If what happens in the movie happened to us, we would, our goats have names. Our chickens are all beloved family members. So having to harvest a chicken or a goat would be, we'd have to be pretty desperate to get to that point. But yeah, I grew up on a farm. Mom and dad have 40 acres, not far from where I live. That would probably be the homestead we'd go to if the world ended, because they have a lot more animals, they have a lot more land, and they legitimately grow crops and plants. So I wouldn't call myself a homesteader, My parents, much more so. So again, if the world ends, that's where we're going. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of my siblings would be there too.
Yeah, and hopefully their animals aren't named.
No, not as many names over there as we have.
Yeah. Homestead, the feature films, hits theaters December 20th. And then there will be the Homestead TV series you were talking about a little bit. Is it the same cast?
It's the same cast, same crew, and we just finished filming 5 weeks ago, more of the episodes. And guys, I can't say it loud enough. I can't wait for people to see the series. If there's a version of like, that saying, preach the gospel in all that you do, and if necessary, and use words. That is the series. He is so loud and proud in the series, even more so than the film, but it's subtle to the point where you could drag your biggest baddest atheist friend to the series and I think the movie, and they would be entertained, and it would lead to some incredible conversation, and the series continues that. God's providence and the miracles are incredibly evident in both, but without it feeling heavy-handed. And I think this series is going to be a really unusual opportunity for us to go outside of the gates of the church, and I'm really, really excited about that.
Yeah, that's so true. That's amazing. When I first watched Homestead, it made me think deeper and ask questions and seek answers. Is that your hope for audiences?
Yeah, we like to say, let's pose the questions and not um, answer the questions. I think if you can take a viewer on a journey where they're like, "Hey, I want to know more about this, and I want to know more about that. I want to know more about this Jesus guy they keep talking about," then let them go from there and go on their own journey to find those answers. As filmmakers and storytellers, I don't think we're responsible for the answers. Honestly, I don't have all the answers. You asked me earlier about raising kids and how to inspire them to follow Jesus. I don't have all the answers. I'm still trying to figure out, just like every listener on here is trying to figure it out. And it's the same thing with this movie. It's 150 people colliding in this homestead in an end of world situation, and half of them don't believe in Jesus. The other half do. Half of them think that the only way to survive the apocalypse is with violence. The other half are farmers and think that there's got to be a better way. And so they're thrown into a life and death situation, trying to figure out how to survive. And the questions that come out of that, like, is there a God? What happens to us when we die? Are the biggest life questions. And whether you're a believer or an atheist, at some point in your life, you're going to be faced with those big questions. And we ask it, and we ask it openly. And it's a beautiful way. The art forms are a beautiful way to subtly have conversations about faith without being heavy-handed or scaring people away from watching the series. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, Ben, I love it so much, and I'm looking forward to the TV series as well.
Awesome. We're excited to share it with you. And just so everybody knows, the movie comes out December 20th. And at the end of the movie, there'll be a QR code. And if you scan that QR code, it takes you to the Angel Studios app where you can watch the first few episodes of the series. And it's perfectly cohesive. Where the movie ends, the series starts. And there's a lot of open-ended questions. People are going to watch the movie and be a little confused about a few characters. What happens to so and so? The little girl, she's making drawings of nuclear bombs, and then that comes true. Like, what's the whole deal with that? The series explores all of those unanswered questions.
It's our home.
It's the end of the world.
Whoa. We're not comfortable with profanity in our house, so we're gonna filter it all out with VidAngel.
You heard her! No more foul talk!
Don't skip the fight, though.
Sign up at vidangel.com to start filtering today.
If you enjoy videos that follow your values like ours and you want to help us continue, go to movieguide.org/donate, because we're actually a nonprofit. You may not know that, but we're working in Hollywood every day to help families have more choices that follows their values. And also subscribe right now.